All right, welcome to this week's session. This one is a little bit different than typical training. This one is one that I usually only do about Christmas time on bear success and goal setting and move people, going into the next year. But since you guys haven't started, I kind of wanted to do it now in the middle for you. And I've got some other clients that watch online that ask the same thing. So these are bear success. But I will tell you, remember, I'm not, throughout the slides, I'll say things like you, resignation, you. I'm not specifically talking about you. Take the slide. If there's a slide that relates to maybe something that holds you back, great. If it has nothing to do with you, garbage in, garbage out. Don't worry about it. So some of the things that I'm going to go over won't resonate with you, and some won't, will. Okay. All right. First slide. Are you ready to fly? I'm a pilot. I have a lot of people that are afraid of flying because they don't understand how that piece of metal can stay up in the air. But if you understand the principles of flying, there's four major principles of flying, and that is if lift, what is created by the shape of the wing and angle of attack, if the lift of the airplane is greater than weight and the thrust moving forward is greater than drag, an airplane will fly. It's the simple principles. What the Wright brothers figured out compared to anybody else is they figured out the lift of the shape of the airfoil because air at the bottom is going faster than the air at top that has to go around it. And pressure is always trying to equalize. So the air at the bottom is pushing up, trying to meet this air up here that's going slower. And that's what creates lift. And that's why the bigger the wing, the more lift you create because it'll overcome the weight of the plane. And then the thrust moving forward is better than the drag of the air of the plane going through air. It'll fly. Anybody ever remember that from your high school days of understanding what it's like? Well, here's how I add to it though. Our behaviors is what lifts us forward. Are we doing the behaviors? Are you doing the checklist every morning? Are you doing the behaviors, the right things that overcome your fear of failure? So when we talk about sales, when I give you a new technique, you might have some fear of, oh, I don't know, I try that. When the client asks me, what do I charge for such and such, and I stroke, repeat, reverse, the fear is that person is going to be upset because I asked that question. The behavior is how many times did you go practice it? Did you practice that line in the mirror, or is it the first time you're delivering it, you yourself have fear that the clients are going to fight you on you asking them questions? So are you doing the right behaviors daily? Are you doing the phone calls you're supposed to make? Are you doing the marketing activities? Everything revolves around, are you doing the behaviors? Are you doing the things you say you're supposed to do? And goals are important because the goals is what thrust us forward. You know, um, Pilots will set like if a pilot's flying from Denver to Los Angeles, California, they will draw a line on a map and they will go, head on a straight line. 90% of the time they're off course because they have to go around a mountain, they have to go through a controlled airspace, they have to avoid a storm, but they're always headed in the right direction. Goals are important because even if you don't reach the goal, you're heading in the right direction. It's thrusting you forward. People with no goals are held back because they don't have anything to shoot for to go forward. So a lot of people won't set goals because they're afraid I won't reach it anyway. But again, the, the issue isn't setting a goal and failing to reach it. It's not even setting the goal and even getting forward at all. So goals overcome our fear of failure. So that's why when I talk about my model for everything, when I work with people is, are you doing the behaviors? Do you have goals that outweigh your fear of failure? Make sense? Okay. So when we start going through this whole thing, I want to talk about, anybody ever heard of Cartman's Triangle? Ever hear this phrase before? Well, Cartman was a psychiatrist, and he came up with this whole theory that any type of a relationship or interaction between people, everybody's in one of three roles. You're either the persecutor, you're the rescuer, or you're the victim. And we constantly move in a conversation with somebody that either you're the persecutor, but then maybe you might be the victim and they might be the rescuer. So Persecutor does something hurtful to someone else. It's in a power play without permission, such as a guilt trip, discomfort, or pain. So a conversation might be with Val, or with somebody who's talking to you and say, oh, all you realtors are all alike. I can't stand working with realtors. You're all money grabbing. So that person is being a persecutor and they're making you the victim. Okay. Now, a third party, somebody else might be at the bar and overhear this, and they walk in and now they're the rescuer. Oh, no, Val's different. She's better. And if you think about from now on, when you see conversations happening, everybody's in one of these three roles. The persecutor does something to hurt. It's a power play for them to try and gain advantage over you. It's like in any negotiation, it's all about leverage. So the persecutor tries to do something to gain leverage from you. Okay. They always externalize. A victim receives the persecutor's actions and plays the victim. Now, some of you might even know somebody that they're always the victim. You know, it's never my fault. Everybody always is picking on me. You know, there's always that person who plays the victim because somebody persecuted them. And then there's the rescuer. The rescuer comes in and tries to solve everybody's problems. Okay. Now, again, we're rotating many times in that triangle from one position to other, but what'll happen is the persecutor in a sales role, this prospect tries to be the prosecutor and make you the victim. And they do it with negative things to insult your profession or who you are. The victim for a prosecutor to come in and says the same thing. They're a victim of circumstances. You know, I don't have any money because my wife and I just got divorced. And they start giving you the sob story. And again, it is a role that they're playing to try and gain leverage over you by having you feel sorry for them as being the victim and want you to be the rescuer and save them by discounting. All right. So the games that everyone keeps moving around the circles all the time. But the objective of a really successful person is to stay out of these games and not get caught and trapped in them. But the reason I even put that Cartman triangle up there, rescuer, victim, and persecutor, is it's hard to stay out of the game until you realize you've been sucked into it. When you realize, oh, I know what they're doing. They're trying to play the victim. Oh, I know what they're doing. They're trying to play the persecutor. Then you can sit there and not get involved and not get into that game. So that's what Cartman's triangle is all about. And that's why we use the dummy curve, the nurturing, the reversing, the upfront contracts as these techniques I've given you to try and stay out of that. Do you remember the dummy curve, anybody, or not?
I was going to ask,
All
I
right,
don't.
so the dummy curve is the dumber you act, the more people want to help you. You know, when you say things like, I'm confused, help me with that, I'm not sure I understand, the more times you question and say that I don't get it, people will give you more information. So that's what the dummy curve is. You're doing it on purpose. You're not being dumb, but you're doing it on purpose. Like, you know, anytime somebody asks you, you know, I'm trying to think of a question to help in each one of your industries, like Val, if somebody says, so what do you think about interest rates? Well, that's a pretty broad question. Maybe you've gotten that kind of thing. You know, the dummy curve is, well, help me understand, what are you talking about interest rates? Are you talking about interest rates on credit cards? Are you talking about interest rates on mortgages? You assume you already knew that they were talking about mortgages, but maybe they weren't. Maybe they're talking about the Fed interest rate. So the dumber you act, the more information they give you. So that's one of the ways you stay out of that Cartman's triangle, is by being very nurturing. Glad you asked, good question. When you ask me about interest rates, you ask because, instead of being conditioned to immediately answer the question without having enough information to answer it correctly. Okay. All right. At all costs, discounting must be avoided. The Cartman's triangle, the victim and the persecutor, is all about trying to get you to discount your rates. Nobody's ever been there, right? You've never been in that situation. They're always trying to discount. All right. So let's get into some of these traits. I've got 21 different traits that are holding us back. This. Resignation. This holds people. There are certain people, I call them the Eeyore of the world. Anybody remember Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? The sky's falling, everything's falling. You know, There are certain people that have resigned to that fact that, hey, especially in sales, I've given up. I'm a terrible salesman. I can't get any better. This is what it is. I just have to resign to the fact. In sales that I'm teaching you, you're going to fail. And this couple slides coming up, you're going to fail in some of these techniques. Don't give up too quickly. Don't give up trying some of these things too quickly. Did anybody try the technique I gave you a couple weeks ago? Is, hey, as you leave here, answer every question with a question. Hey, what do you want for dinner? Good question. Glad you asked. What do you think I'd like? Anybody try that? Did you? And did you get used to asking questions because you did that, Val? You shook your head. Yeah.
Yes, I was just practicing it on someone that already does it. So it wasn't, they knew what I was doing. So I need to kind of get better at it. It's a hard habit to break when, you know, in your mind, you think you have the answer.
Just remember my whole slogan for sales, the power of training through reinforcement. You know, anything you've gone through, basketball, sports, anytime when a coach tries to coach you, they don't expect you to learn the zone defense at one practice. Same thing here. I don't expect you to learn the system at one session. It's the repetition of it and doing it, you know, as a like a play, like an actor in any play will tell you that once they rehearse their lines 12 times, then they got it, but they probably don't have it the first time. So don't give up is what I'm saying. Don't resign to your fate that I hear this all the time. I'm not a natural born salesman. I don't believe there's such a thing as a natural born salesman. Most people relate that to somebody who's just got the gift of gab and can present well. Just because you can present doesn't mean you're a good salesperson. Gotcha. All right. I've come this far, I resign to my fate. There's nothing left for me. I'm not willing to move forward with sales training. Don't give up. Having no priorities. What I mean by that is, remember we did the first slide about having goals. Goals are hugely important, but again, when you ask most people why they don't set goals, it's because they're afraid they won't achieve them. So goals, you remember SMARTer? Anybody remember goals need to be SMART? Remember the acronym? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and the T is time bound. You have to set, when somebody says, oh, well, I want to be a millionaire, great, wonderful goal, by when? Set it by when. And then I added the ER. They must be enjoyable and rewarding. So goals should be smarter. All right. But again, work hard, play hard, live hard. People are not successful, seem to be spending all their time working. And the more successful you get, the less work you really should do. Right. So if you're not taking time, like I'm taking time here, I'm up here for this motorcycle rally. You got to take time to enjoy it, or else you start resenting work. So the priorities are what? It's family first, building a business, whatever they are, and make sure they're written down. Anybody remember or know the name Lou Holtz? You ever hear of that? Lou Holtz is coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, won the national championship. He resigned a couple years ago from South Carolina. He was a football coach there. He's a great motivational speaker. If he ever comes to your town and you have a chance to listen to Lou Holtz, please go. But he has on the back of his pocket, if he walked in the door right now, he has 3 business cards, and he wrote down 100 like bucket list things, goals that he wants to do, but he carries them with him so they can frequently evaluate them. And then he checks off. And last summer, he checked off number 76, skydiving at age 82. So do you have goals? And most people shake their head, oh, of course I have goals. I say, show them to me. Where are they? Oh, they're in a file cabinet somewhere. Goals should be written down and frequently evaluated. A lot of people have a need for approval and they fear rejection. When they get to sales, they seek approval and they don't understand sales is a profession designed to get you to go to the bank to meet your financial needs. And they get mixed up thinking sales is a place to get approval from a client. You know, if the client loves you, that's great. That's one thing. But really, don't get into sales thinking that you're going to get all this accolation and stress and strokes and rewards from your prospects. So I had one guy that was a engineer and the company wanted to be a salesperson. So he's got that engineer mindset. And when he saw this slide, it changed his whole perspective because he was going on these sales calls thinking that he's going to get everybody to like him. And I had to get him think, you know, If they like you, that's great. But what needs to be done is the sale needs to be made. Don't go into it thinking that you have to have that need of approval. Don't be that person that's got to have everybody tell you every day, well, how great you are. You should be self-sufficient in being to do that by yourself. So again, do you need the sale or do you want the prospect's approval? I think most people say I'd rather have the sale than the prospect's approval. Be great if you get both. Chances are you you really just want to make sure you're striving to get the sale. Hopelessness, depression, followed by high expectation, pride. It's that high peak, high up and down. We all should try and stay as even keel as we can. When you make a sale, it should be, oh, that's great. When you lose a sale, oh, that's great. You know, the peaks and valleys is what really destroy salespeople. They get the euphoric of, boy, I got that sale, I did fantastic. Boy, I'm going to go have a drink and celebrate. And then the next day, when they don't get a sale, they fall into a deep depression, right? Remember this line, some will, some won't, some will, some won't, so what? Stop whining. 4 S's, some will, some won't, stop whining. You're not going to get everybody, that we all know that. Okay. But this really comes from somebody who's had attempted things, they've had high expectations, then they need to accept them and then they get it. So they start that porpoising effect, the high in their emotional roller coaster. Not knowing the difference between needs and wants. This was one that my mama, like going back to my mama, I'd go to the grocery store with my mom, and at the checkout item would be the ball split airplanes or the toys or the little impulse items. And I'd say to the mama, Mama, I need that. And mom would go, show me. What do you mean you need that? Well, I need that. She says, it doesn't hurt to want. You can want it, but you don't need it. Right? There's a difference between needs. And then what it comes in sales is this. If you want an order, you can be independent. If you need an order, the prospect owns you. If you need to make that sale to cover your mortgage payment or your house, it really comes through. It starts to come through as you're desperate and they sense it. So stop feeling, I need this, I want it. And I've had prospects even say to me something like, hey, Wayne, you're not working. Do you want this sale? And I'd say, well, yes, I want it, but it would surprise you if I said I don't need it. So now you get control back that way. I want the sale, love to work with you, but I don't need it to pay the mortgage. I don't need the sale this week because a lot of people are trying to remember, pay that persecutor and hope to get you in that role where you need the sale so that they own you and they can negotiate a better price. Now think about it. I've had people say in the trades, in the trade business, boy, don't you need this sale? I want it, but how would you like to work with somebody who, if they need it, they need to make your sale to pay their truck payment or keep their guys busy this week? Oh, I like that because they think they get the better price. And then you say to him, yeah, but now if that person's desperate for your business, they discount it to get your job, and then somebody else comes along that's going to pay full price, where are they going to send their crew? Now remember, you're asking in a question format, you're not telling. Because when you ask to say, what do you think would happen if I give you the lowest price based on my availability, and then I get another job where I'm going to get more money from somebody else? Who do you think is going to get my attention? Oh, the other person. Yeah. So again, the client's got to feel that you want it, but not that you need it. True. I got it. Okay. Stop me anytime we go to something you want to talk about. There are some people just have a lack of confidence. They lack confidence in themselves and no confidence in the world in general. They're just, that goes back to the resignation, the Eeyore kind of people. Oh, the sky's falling. It's I'm the victim. Not my fault. Don't get into those games with those people is what I'm saying. These same people also have low self-esteem. Think about it this way. If you didn't like yourself to one degree or another, what would you do? I mean, if you didn't like somebody, what would you do for them? Not a whole lot, right? What if you're that person? When I was in high school, girls had they'd call guys, oh, that guy's so conceited. And if you think about it, conceited means you like yourself. Now, if it's not a false praise for yourself, it's really, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If it's false praise for yourself, but if you start getting this vicious circle, if you wouldn't do much for somebody that you don't like, and if that person's you, it becomes a spiral. The less you do, the less you like yourself, which means the less you do. So there's nothing wrong with having confidence in who you are and what you do. Don't let somebody tell you that, oh, you're overly confident, oh, you're conceited. As long as it's not false praise, there's nothing wrong with that. This is a big one, dependence on others, where you're looking for motivation and support from other people. You have difficulty working alone and being self-contained. Now, this happens to employees. So, Mark and Deborah, do you guys have employees? Or are
Yeah.
they independent contractors?
No, they're not, they're employees.
So you ever get that person you've ever worked with, Val, might be the same thing where the person says, well, I'm just not motivated, or I just wasn't motivated for my boss. I talk to those people and say, look, why are you looking at the boss to motivate you? Shouldn't you be self-motivated? Shouldn't you set your own goals and priorities and establish, what it is you want and not have to seek approval from your boss, not have to look for motivation from your boss? Successful people don't look for somebody else to be dependent on. They don't look for somebody else to motivate them. They're self-contained. And as an employer, as a manager, I just have conversations with many people that time to say that same thing is don't look to be, my job as a boss is this, and I have a whole management program. Boss's job is to create the best environment for you to do your job and then leave you alone. Make sure that you have all the tools you need, make sure you have the best environment. But if I hired and trained the right person, and I gave them an environment that's rich for them to be successful, I shouldn't have to micromanage them. Why are you smiling, Deborah? I'm just curious.
I'm just, I don't know anything in particular, but just making sure we have the
Okay,
right environment
You're
for
probably
it.
doing it already, but that's, I mean, the employee, but again, as employers, we don't tell employers what our management style is. And we should tell them up front, hey, this is what the style is going to be. I will provide you with the training. I will provide you with the tools. I will provide you with the information that you need to do the job correctly. But I will leave you alone to do that job. Now come to me if you have any questions or concern, but don't look to me to motivate you. Now, every while you want to have a conversation with somebody to update, on their status and manage the expectations, but not over micromanage them. And that's where a lot of people they become expected on their boss to do it. Okay. Unsuccessful people, they're unable to see things objectively. They have their own reality is what they think. They don't try and walk in somebody else's moccasins for a mile. And successful people do. Successful people, instead of arguing points with people on what it is that they want, products or service, they try and put themselves in that person's position as to why they might want that. When the person says, I want concrete countertops, instead of trying to have a debate with them about, oh, you really don't want to do that, it's too much work, there's too much hassle, it'd be easier just to go to great granite. Why would that person want concrete? There might have been something there that motivated that question instead of just trying to talk them out of it. See their reality, see what it is. And most unsuccessful people don't see reality as it, but rather their own perception of it. That whole line, one man's perception is his reality. But that's not how somebody else looks at the world. So try and understand how somebody else looks at the world. There's a lot of people think that I can't be successful because I don't have economic conditions, I don't have enough capital. Here's my line on that. Unsuccessful people spend a lot of time worrying about how much money they don't have. They get mixed up in this conceptual problem about being broke is a condition, while being poor is a state of mind. There's a big difference between the two. Okay. August 3rd, 1992, when I got fired by Jerry Lewis and I had to go find another job, what I didn't tell a lot of people is 2 weeks earlier, we took all of our savings, put on a down payment for a house. Now I've got a $1,500 a month mortgage, no savings, and no job. I was broke, but I wasn't poor. I have the support of a good woman. I had a wonderful wife and family that supported me. It was a financial condition, not a state of mind. So I was so poor at that time, I had to deal with General Motors financing. If they couldn't find my car, they couldn't have it back. Oh, seriously, I parked around the street on the other side of the and walked through neighbors' yards so that I didn't park my car in the driveway so the repo man couldn't find it. But again, I was broke financially, but I wasn't poor. And unsuccessful people that you might know are always talking about how much money they don't have instead of what they do have. So always reflect on that. I start with bagels every morning. Bagels is my behaviors, my attitude, and I do affirmations of this morning, hey, my wife's, in good health for one day, my son's in good shape. Think about the positive things you have instead of the negative. Fear of failure and trying new sales techniques. This holds a lot of people back in my class. If you have an unbelievable fear of failure, it's a double negative because you fear it. And because you fear it, you don't do it. And because you don't do it, you don't get any better. And it just creates, again, that downward spiral. So failure is going to happen. We all fail. I always said, I do the joke about, any of you got little kids that are the age of learning to walk, or if you can remember that? Remember
Yeah.
little kids when they start to walk, they crawl first, and then they find a footstool or table, and they start to pull themselves up, and eventually they start to walk away from it, and they start to lose their balance, and they take 2 steps and they fall. What do we do as parents? We don't say, you idiot, don't you know how to do this? Don't we go, yay, you did it, you tried. See, we've encouraged people and reward people when they're younger for failure. But as we get older, we start thinking about failure as a negative. We are born ecstatic and we grow to be miserable. Isn't that sad? So failure is going to happen when I give you these techniques. You're going to fail. And I just want to remind you what all these people have in common. Anybody know what they have in common?
They're dead. No,
They all were miserable failures. Lincoln lost more elections than he ever won. Grant ran his family business. This family had general stores in Galena, Illinois. He ran those businesses in bankruptcy 3 times. The only thing he was ever successful at was being a general, being in war. Michael Jordan, you all know that story, that he, was cut from his high school team. Actually, the real story is that he says that he was too young anyway. But he has, I think he said that one time he had like 76 game-winning shots, where you get the game-winning shot at the end of the game. But he missed 130 game-winning shots. Most people forget that. Winston Churchill, only a 4th-grade education. Thomas Edison, the light bulb, 999 failures before they got it right. Beethoven, the music teacher told his parents he'd never be successful. Colonel Sanders failed at everything until 63 years of age when he finally came up with the recipe for KFC. He failed as a riverboat pilot. He ran the Julia Bell Swain into the ground and sank it. He failed as a farmer. He failed as an insurance salesman. He was a miserable failure for 63 years until he came up with KFC. Walt Disney and his brother, the first business they had in Kansas City was Laugh-O-Gram. It was like Telegram, but they would send people to your house to give you a joke. Failed miserably. Steven Spielberg, his first film cost him $500. It played in his Lucasfilm theater, and he only made $101. So he only won $1 profit on his first film. So my point is, most people have failed miserably at something before they become successful at it. The next one, unsuccessful people do what we call stamp collecting or word points. Anybody on this call remember True Value or S&H stamps? No? You're too young. Today we have the reward programs where every fast food store you sign up for the report, you collect points and you get some. I've got like 4,000 points at McDonald's right now. What happens is most people collect points and they don't cash them in all at once. They don't cash them in for the cheeseburger. They wait to get the value meal. Right? So unsuccessful people collect emotional stamps from other people. They do. I'll go through and I'll give you. They don't take ownership of their feelings. They blame you for what their feelings are. They don't do upfront contracts with people like I'm teaching you. The Howard Stacy story is this. So this will help you understand what I mean by stamp collecting. Howard's a friend of mine. I call him up and say, hey, you want to play poker this Friday night? And Howard doesn't own up to his true feelings and go tell his wife that he wants to play poker. Instead, he says, hey, Stacy, we doing anything Friday? And she goes, no, why? You want to go see a movie? And you go, oh, darn, okay. So think about it. He says, I'll go. I wanted to go play poker with the guys, but instead I'll go see a movie with you. But he collects a stamp. He gets a point for that, that he did what she wanted to. Okay. And he doesn't cash that in until he wants to collect another points on other things. So now they go to the movies on Friday. Stacy says, what do you want to see? And he says, well, I want to see an action movie. And she says, well, I'd kind of like to see a rom-com. I'd like to see a comedy. And okay, honey, but all right, we'll go see an action movie. So, but she collects a stamp on him now. Now I'm gonna remember that. I get one for that. And now think about it. Both of them are at the movies. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to be playing poker. She doesn't want to be there. She doesn't want to see an action movie. But they're collecting stamps on each other in their relationship. Okay. Now the story that goes that 2 weeks later, he's collected stamps on her for things that she's done that he didn't want to happen. And then he doesn't say anything, but all of a sudden he comes home, what's for dinner? And she says, nothing, honey. I was at my mother's all day. Damn it, honey, now. And then he cashes in all the stamps all at once.
Yeah.
Successful people don't collect stamps and cash them in all at once. Okay. So think about it this way. Prospects collect stamps on you, but they didn't get them from you. You know, somebody says, oh, you salespeople are all alike. Well, they got the stamps from somebody else. You're not everybody. It's the same thing with how many times have you, like the telemarketer calls you and the first call you get tonight, you're polite. No, I'm not interested. Thank you very much. And the third call, by then now you've collected stamps from 3 other telemarketers. Now this one calls and it goes, it must suck to be you. And you hang up on them angrily. You've collected stamps on them, on other people, but you cash them in on somebody. Prospects do this to you. Prospects collect stamps from other vendors and then they cash all their stamps in on you. Sound familiar with anybody?
So,
So successful people like a third party in the process, they don't get overly emotionally involved. They're not collecting stamps. Now managers collect stamps on employees and they cash them at the annual review. They don't say anything all year long. And then during the review, they go, and remember last October, you came in late. I remember that because they were collecting stamps, but they weren't cashing them in all at once. So successful people don't do that. My wife and I haven't had a fight in years because she went through this training. And the reason it says is we don't do that. When you start to bring out from the past something to the present, you can't collect stamps. We have a rule, no stamp collecting. If we have an argument, we deal with the one thing today. You can't pile on and add something else to it. And the reason I do this is just remember when you get difficult people sometimes that are really short with you on the call, or they're a prospect you're dealing with and they're getting frustrated that it's taken too long for the process. Don't overreact. They might be just collecting stamps from somebody else that they had a bad day today and they're cashing them in on you. Is that fair? Okay. The Mr. Nice Guy model. When you leave, you'd rather leave with having somebody think well of you than leaving with the order. Okay. If you meet somebody's expectations, they'll like you anyway, right? If you do what you're supposed to do, they'll like you. If you exceed their expectations, they will love you. If you fail to meet their expectations, they'll hold you beneath contempt. So at the beginning, I always go into things thinking, how can I exceed these people's expectations? How can I deliver more than what they expected? And once I do that, then they love me and give me referrals and all those wonderful things. But I don't expect them to start with. I don't expect at the beginning that they're immediately going to love me. They're going to be leery because I'm taking money out of their pocket. But once I solve their pain, then they love me. Okay. Unfinished business or excess baggage. Unsuccessful people are always going back in time and bringing it to the present. They spend a lot of time with their baggage and unfinished business. So the story I have to help remind you of that one is when Jerry Lewis did fire me in October of 92, August of 92 rather, when I would start looking for jobs and fundraising, I had my resume go do interviews and people would say things like, so why'd you leave muscular dystrophy? Oh, Jerry was a jerk. He was on Percocet. I carried those negative things with me. And I don't think that really did well in the job interviews, that I carried that Essex baggage with me. As soon as I started having, when people would ask me a question, so why'd you leave muscular dystrophy? you know, it was a great job and enjoy it. We had a difference of opinion. Jerry wanted me to leave. I wanted to stay. When I started looking at it that way, not carried excess baggage and started complaining about my boss, I started getting better offers and jobs. So don't carry excess baggage and take it to the future with you. Last two slides. The if only model. There's a lot of people that are constantly saying if only. If only that my supplier gave me better rates. If only the vendors would get me things on time. If only this prospect had realistic expectation. If only this prospect had more money. If only interest rates would come down. There's a lot of people that are constantly saying if only. Now I want you to think about it this way. The most important if is if I would only take responsibility for my actions, then I would understand that sometimes the results will be favorable, but in the long run, I'll be better off. I will be in control. My confidence, my self-esteem will grow. My knowledge will expand. I'll gain new courage. My sales will improve, and I will be looked upon as a true sales professional because the if was internalized. The if is important as to where you put it. Okay. The yes, the if is worth a great deal of money, whether that money is in your bank account, somebody else. It will be determined by the way in which you look at if they're externalized excuses over which you supposedly have no control, or are they internalized conditions over which you have absolute control? Because for how you answer, it's worth a lot of money. So are you saying if all the time, if only they would do this, if only she would do that, if only that would happen, if only, is the if externalized or internalized? And you'll be more successful. All right, that's the end of part one. That's it for now. What do you got? Any questions, comments? Yes, buts, anything from you guys?
I think I see a lot of those line items. I mean, I have a few of them, but I also see a lot of them in people that I've, had past business, whether employees or subcontractors that didn't work out, that have a lot of those same, limiting factors like that. Like I say, even the last one, not their fault. It's the economy, it's the government, it's everybody's fault but theirs. And really, I'm in the same boat and I'm doing okay. So.
Well, if you want to counsel anybody, that's why I'm going to record this. And why I am recording, I'll post it to the YouTube channel, I'll send you the link when it goes on there. Because use that last line for people you're counseling, employees that are doing this to you, anybody that your co-workers. Use some of this stuff to share with a coworker. Say, hey, I went to this training and I saw this one slide about the if, and you keep constantly saying if only.
Yeah.
And yeah, you feel free to be the trainer yourself from the content that I provide.
Yeah.
Anything else, Val? Anything?
I think what resonates with me, is that I'm so new to an industry that I do look for, approval as opposed to, just needing to be a good, agent. And so, I see that, I see the, stamp collecting. So a lot of this for me is taking things too personally as opposed to just, putting my talents and my skills to work and
Yeah.
solving people's problems if I can. If I can't, that's fine too. So,
Do you struggle with being a salesperson?
oh yeah, absolutely. So,
Why?
um, I don't know.
Is it a negative connotation? I mean, would you have kids and say, I can't wait for you to grow up to be a salesman?
You know what? Salesman to me is such an antiquated, like I think that there's everyone that works for anyone is in sales,
Exactly.
regardless of what you
Remember
do.
what sales is. Do you remember my definition?
No,
All right, let me
what's
give it
your
to you again.
definition?
Sales is just influencing people to a mutually beneficial decision. Good salespeople just influence somebody to a mutually beneficial decision, one that puts money in your pocket and one that leaves them in better condition than when you found them. Sales isn't about tricking, manipulating, coercing somebody to buy something they don't need or want. Gotta get, then that's what most people think sales is. That's why when most, if you spend $100,000 sending your kid to college and your kid comes home after 4 years of college, mom and dad, I know what I want to do. I want to be a salesperson, get rejected 6 or 7 times a day. Would you try and talk them out of it? Instead, sales is, you're a doctor, you're diagnosing what's wrong with somebody and you're offering them as the cure. What more noble profession could there be?
Right.
So think about sales that way, that you are a doctor of sales. You are a doctor that's diagnosing a problem. You're not giving them a product or service they don't need. You're solving their pain, and you're uniquely positioned to do it better than anybody else. You can solve their pain nurturingly, honestly, ethically, morally. You can do all those things that your competition might not do, and have that better mental attitude when you go in to meeting with somebody, that, my God, I'm going to leave this person in better condition because I'm going to do a better job of asking questions and diagnosing what's wrong with them compared to anybody else. And I think it'll help you get over that. I mean, I can tell one of the great things why I use you as a realtor, ethical. I can just tell you're ethical. I'm sure that I won't get conned, coerced, manipulated, tricked. And
Thank
that's a
you.
great trait to have.
Right.
But I will get that because you will ask me questions instead of telling me.
Right.
Because most salespeople, business owners also, they're afraid to be vulnerable. They want to act like the #1 expert. They want to tell everybody instead of sitting back and gaining knowledge and asking questions. There is a time to be the expert, but that's at the point of delivery, not at the beginning. The beginning is about asking questions and finding out specifically what the pain is, not trying to show them that you're the smartest person in the room. That's what a lot of salespeople do right away. They try and sell everybody. I was just driving a new motorcycle down the street here, all the motorcycles here, and the sales guy's trying to tell me about why I should trade in my motorcycle. You know, oh, yours is a 2016. You need this one. It's so much better. And he's telling me instead of asking, hey, if you did trade it in, why? What would you be looking for? Why would you want to trade in? And it's really hard for me as a sales trainer to deal with salespeople sometimes because I want to solve. There's a pain. All right. Any other things, you guys?
I can think of. I think it's good that way. I think I fight the Mr. Nice Guy part where I still have a hard time, knowing that a failure isn't going to be contempt against me and that they dislike me. And I mean, that's still something
I know sometimes we take it personal when it really wasn't me. They will say things that, well, I'm not sure like it, when it really the truth is, remember, they're liars. Remember, I don't have the money, the bank loan didn't come through.
Yeah.
And they're embarrassed to put it on them, so they put it on you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's true. Well, I really
And you should be okay with
resonated.
that.
Yeah, I resonated with the rescuer, victim, persecutor, because I think I get in the rescuer role quite frequently on my phone calls.
Yeah.
And I connect with people because I want to rescue them. It's a natural trait for me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
need to learn how to step out of that one.
Good for you. Good for you. There's a lot of content you got today, so feel free to go back and look at the slideshow. Matter of fact, what I'll probably do to make it easier instead of the video, I'll have the video also, but I'll send you the actual PowerPoint so you can go slide by slide.
That would be nice.
Okay with that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Give me until I get back tomorrow. I'm leaving now to start. I got a 7-hour drive back. I'll do it when I get in the office tomorrow.
Ooh, on your
Right.
bike? All right, well, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
drive
very
safe.
much. Thank you
bet.
very much.